Hello, everyone, and welcome to Press Coverage, part of the Going for Two Live network. You can find us on the Going for Two Live network anywhere on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. And my name is Kyle Senner. I'll be hosting tonight, part of Going for Two. Check out goingfor2.com and make sure to subscribe, and comment wherever you are. And we really appreciate that. Appreciate all the support. And I appreciate my guest for joining me tonight, Shane Manila from Dynasty Trades HQ, Mannequin Chill, Dynasty Trades in 5, Fantasy Intervention, probably something else, but I think that's about as good as either of us can remember. So how are you doing, Shane?
Yeah, that's it. I only do one podcast, a couple YouTube shows, 3 of them, I guess, and then I write for a couple places. Dude, I'm stoked. This is the best time of the year. It's Christmas, right? This is what we live for. Like rookie drafts during Dynasty season. Like it literally gets no better than this. We're all going to shoot our load now. Between now and June, and then come July, be like sad and just start jump into a bunch of startups.
I think there's at least I know the Friends of Reality RSO league, they already talked about that rookie draft's probably in July, so at least that'll be kind of nice. Usually the contract leagues with the auctions, usually especially the RSO ones, those have to be live, so kind of try and find a time to do the rookie draft and the auction in the summer. But yeah, outside of that, you're right, most of my rookie drafts will also be within the next month, so here we go. Love this time of year.
Let's go.
And it's funny because for some people the introduction to all of this fantasy is the NFL draft. For others it's actually watching sports. So Shane, what were your first sports experiences like?
See, my first sport experiences, I don't know, probably watching football with my grandpa, to be honest with you. My dad was never into sports. He sucked in a lot of areas, and that was one of them. Like, he just was not a sports fan. In fact, the first football game I ever went to was with my mom, and it was a Monday night football game. She won tickets from Modell's, and we got to ride down on a Modell's bus, and then these drunk girls behind me spilled a ton of beer on me. And I think I was like 11 years old, and we lost to the Washington Commanders, now the Commanders. But yeah, probably my first memories are just watching football with my grandpa, man. Kelly Green. That's all I remember is the Kelly Green for the Eagles.
I wonder if the beer spilling was an omen to the team you were about to watch, right? Like,
it was, I think I was 9 or 10, and it was definitely like, oh, these are my people, huh? Like, this is what we do. Like, just pure white trash in the stands and just dumping beer on a little kid and fighting in the sun. I was in the 700 level at a Monday night football game. I mean, Jesus Christ, at 9, and my mom's like, this is a great idea. So
welcome to Philly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess I guess fantasy football is a little less alcohol. Oh wait, no, fantasy drafts maybe not. So again, obviously you're an Eagles fan, except for certain periods, but most of the time you're an Eagles fan.
Yeah.
And what transitioned from just sports fan and sports watching to wanting to participate in the fantasy universe?
Honestly, I don't think I played in my first fantasy league until college, which now that I look back is probably a very long time ago. Come to think of it, that's when I'm 43. I think me and my son figured that out the other day. So yeah, like 25 years ago, something like that. We were just like, hey, you want to do this fantasy football thing? And we're like, sure. How do we keep score? Well, you got to look at the newspaper and you got to look at the stats. And you're like, all right, that sounds excellent. We used to call the commissioner the night before and put our lineups in because there were no Thursday night games back then. So that was nice. What would suck is if you get, and I was still young, so I'd go out and get hammered on Saturday nights. And there was multiple times where I just didn't wake up in time the next day to call my lineup in. Like, it was just like, all right, well, Shane's just got the same lineup as last week. And then, I just played it for a long time. And then I guess about 5 or 6 years ago, it became an obsession.
And I guess that's when you started creating content, right? Podcasting, writing. So what pushed you into that realm?
Writing first, because podcasting is similar to Superflex. Like, I was like completely against it. I was, people were trying to tell me I should do podcasting. I'm like, have you heard me speak? I'm like, I like writing because I can sound intelligent, like you can't hear my voice. You don't hear this accent coming at you Because, as soon as you hear anything I say, you discount it like immediately because you're like, oh, he's a Philly guy. He's not that bright. He sounds really stupid. So you just assume I'm like a trained monkey when I say something smart. So that's why I liked writing, because I was like, all right, well, no one can hear my voice, so they're probably not assuming I'm a trained monkey. They probably think I'm smart. I saw a tweet one day. I came in the days of the Wild West, right? When everybody was like, you want to write? Because I have a site, and if you like football, you can write for me. So I saw one of those, and I was like, I like fantasy football. I'm pretty good at this. I could probably do this. So I jumped in. I was terrible at it. Just god awful. I've read back some of the stuff I wrote when I first started writing, and it was tremendously atrocious. I definitely, I'll say my persona's never changed. I was always me. It's just I've learned to refine it a little better. Yeah, it was a lot of stream of consciousness and sarcasm and snark. I've kept the sarcasm and snark, and kind of moved away from the stream of consciousness. Now I just do that on podcasts. That's why I love podcasts. I was writing for DFF, Dynasty Football Factory, and the website owner kept trying to get me to do podcasts for forever. He's like, oh, you'll love it. I'm like, I don't want to talk to people. I don't want people to see my face. I don't want people to know my full name. And eventually I just gave in, and he set us up, myself, Michael Sipes, and Jeremy Browen. And literally, like, we put so much planning before the first episode. Like, we put 3 months of planning in. And then eventually I just got tired of it one day, and I was like, guys, we're going live right now. Let's go. Like, I had just made a trade, and I was like, I know what I want our show to be. This is what it's going to be. Let's go. Jumped on, started, and was just like, trade alert, yelled it out. And then that was our podcast. And then we went from there.
So yeah, so the very first sound, I don't think I've ever heard the very first episodes. The very first sound you hear when you play that first episode is you yelling trade alert.
No idea, because I would never listen to anything where I'm speaking. That's one of the things. So I'm on a lot of shows, and I if I have to listen to it, I really hate it. Like Clay from Dynasty Trades in 5, he's always trying to get me to watch the YouTube channels. So like, because he puts a lot of work into that, and he'll do some cool graphics, and he'll be like, hey, go check out it. And I'll be like, dude, you gotta give me like the exact second, because I don't want to hear my voice. Like, I'm gonna mute it, I'll turn it down, and then I'll go to it. He's like, all right, fine.
You had a football helmet on one of them. That was pretty.
I had a football helmet on. I'll check them out. Like, I'm like, all right, Clay, I'll let it play in the background, but I got to turn the volume down. I cannot listen to my own voice. When I upload the patron episodes for Dynasty Trades HQ, it's awful because I can never pause it in time before I start saying words. And I'm like, oh God, hurry up. Like, there's been times where I just want to throw my phone because it won't pause because I got too much going on. And I'm like, oh my God, I heard 30 seconds of myself. Why do I talk?
So it's still, even in spite of, initially like everyone saying, oh, you should podcast, the initial hesitation seems like they're still there a little bit with you, right? Like you still don't like hearing the sound of your voice.
Oh, I hate the sound of my voice. I hate my accent. It's not the sound of my voice. I should say that. The sound of my voice is fine. It's the accent that's progressively gotten worse and worse and worse. Like, like a Minnesotian, as soon as you hear them, you're like, oh, you're one of those people. As soon as I start speaking, you're like, oh, dear Lord. Yeah. You were like born in some gutter in Philadelphia. And I'm like, yep.
Well, I like hearing your voice. So, I mean, every podcast I've ever heard, it's like, oh yeah, I like that. I like when that guy talks, but maybe I don't know if it's for the same reasons as everyone else.
You know what, though? It's probably because I have to hear a bunch of other people that sound like me, and I kind of want to punch them in the face all the time because I'm like, you people really sound stupid when you speak. So maybe because it's not, you know what I mean? Like, if I was a Canadian, maybe I wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, the Canadian sounds wouldn't bother me, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, how many people are in Philadelphia? Like the Philadelphia metropolitan area, we'll say. Like, do you know?
Last look, I think it was around 3 million people. It was around the 5th or 6th largest city in the country.
Well, that's what I said. That's about 10% of Canada's population in one city. So, like, we also don't see that many people as you do, or at least I don't. So, maybe that's also it. But so still, like, it seems like, in spite of your, I guess, apprehension you're still, you still started the podcast, you're still persevering, you're still expanding. So it seemed like you're a good influence to anyone who is maybe worried a little bit about themselves, if anyone's trying to like start out now. So do you have outside of that like entire general philosophy, do you have anything else you'd like to kind of share with anyone who is maybe thinking about making that podcast jump, or has a bunch of people saying they should?
One of my favorite things when I go on podcasts, and partly because I'm a narcissist, but partly because I just like, I think it's cool when you help people. But when people are like, oh, I didn't know if I could do a podcast, then I heard you, and I was like, I can do this too. And I'm like, I don't know if that's so much a compliment, but I'll take it. Be genuine, right? Be yourself. If you're generally someone that jokes, then joke. If you're generally someone that spits stats, fine. But you do have to find a happy medium between informing and entertaining, right? Like I could drivel, whatever. People know the word I'm trying to say. I could drone on about stats, right? I'll dig into stats, no problem. But I just know like, all right, I need to pull back a little bit and let's just make a joke about someone's mom. Usually my own, not someone else's. You want to be a little self-deprecating so that people don't hate you. To me, and I've said this before, it's like therapy. It is honestly like therapy. You could have a horrible day at work and you get on the mic and you start talking about fantasy football with your friends, and it's cathartic. It's like, all right, life really isn't that bad. Like literally I get to come home and I get to just talk about fantasy football. Like, like that's a first world problem. Like, at night when I'm thinking this morning, I'm in the shower and I'm like, oh, I got a podcast at 8 tonight. And then I got to do a show at 9. And like, these are first world problems, right? I'm talking about fantasy football. Like there's what could be better, honestly. So do it. If you want to do it, just do it. Just be consistent. Don't be one of those. There was a bunch of podcasts that started over the last 3 years that I couldn't tell you where they are right now. Like you've been around for decades now, it feels like. I saw you at the first Canton Expo, right? First fantasy football expo. I think that might have been the first time we met. And that was like 3 or 4 years ago. You could probably list 4,000 podcasts that have come and gone since that time. And I was on a couple of them too. So I won't even talk trash, you know what I mean? But just be consistent.
Yeah, for sure. And so was it like, just go back to something you said, the if Shane can do it, you made it so I can think I can do it too, right? Was there anyone in the podcast space that was that for you, that like, oh, that person's podcasting, I can do it too, either in the, oh, if they can do it, I'm so much better, or in the, oh wow, I want to be just like them kind of thing?
I mean, honestly, as much shit as I might give him, Matt Kelly, because his show wasn't like everyone else's. And he didn't just stick to talking about fantasy football. And I was always like, well, and he was smart. He's incredibly smart, right? And I like to, not to brag, I consider myself smart. So I'm like, wow, I could do this. Like I can be myself. Like I can go on a podcast and I could be me. Because honestly, every podcast I heard before that, it was fantasy football. Here's some stats. Here's some tape. Here's some blah. And I can do that. You know what I mean? But it wouldn't be the same. And when I listened to him, I said, yeah, he, even though this might be just a persona or a shtick, this is kind of me in real life. You know what I mean? Like I can just go on the mic and like not say outlandish things because they're not outlandish to me. This is just how I am in real life. You know what I mean? So I get on the mic and I'm exactly the same. And he was the first one that really made me think like, wow, you don't have to be, this straight arrow. You don't have to go from A to B to Z. You know what I mean? Like you can deviate and color out the lines, and you can go, you can get into some of your personal stuff if you want to, you know what I mean? As long as you analogize it to fantasy football in some way. So probably Matt and the Dynasty Dummies, because they were so pragmatic. And I tell Zach this all the time, but the first time I listened to their show and I'm like, oh, this is boring. I don't like it. But that was, I listened to a couple episodes and I was like, I don't like this. But then a couple weeks go by and I'm like, I kind of missed that show. Let me bring that show back on. And I was like, this isn't boring. It's different than other shows. It's very pragmatic and it's very, I don't know. His sensibility about it was different. So it was, which is funny, they're very different podcasts, but those two podcasts.
Yeah, really, that is quite a wide range, but also, maybe you're also not so one-dimensional yourself, so maybe that's also kind of proof of that.
I hate listening. Look, there's a ton of smart people out there, right? There's a ton of funny people out there. I don't find that there's a good Venn diagram for both. So I'm not saying like I purposely try to skew one way, like, oh, I'm saying too many smart things. Now it's time to be funny. But I definitely have a sense of like, all right, we need to lighten the mood. Like we just rattled off ADOT for like 75 players and people are ready to drive off a bridge.
Well, it's funny because we're actually helping someone with their drive home, hopefully not off a bridge.
Yeah, don't drive off a bridge, bro.
Yeah, thanks. Also, apparently helping, Shane, you helped someone, Jamie here, with taking Wilson over Burks at the 104. I feel like I have Burks ranked ahead of Wilson 104, 105. So,
I had Burks as my 101 wide receiver one of this class, literally up until about 2 weeks before the NFL draft, and then I just started really like, I think it's Wilson. I think it's Wilson because he just does everything well. Like he doesn't have a weakness to his game. Whereas Burks, I still like him, but he has a ton of weaknesses. He's got a ton of things he needs to work on. Very raw as a route runner. He's got bad feet. He doesn't run NFL routes. He didn't run a lot of NFL routes in college. Whereas Wilson excelled at those, at the routes they run in the pros. He ran them in college and excelled at them. So that's just my thinking, right? Burks could be AJ Brown part 2, right? Because he looks like a wrecking ball. He looks like basically the reincarnate of AJ Brown. But I just lean Wilson. He's just a more complete wide receiver, I think.
All right, but I have been talking that 105 kind of feels like the cliff, unless like 106 if you really want to include Pickett and really want the quarterback.
I don't want Pickett.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and apparently Gersa thinks your mom is badass though for taking you to Monday Night Football. So
no, yeah, my mom was definitely she was different. She was a different mom. She was a different mom. She's a good mom. She's a great grandma. I'll say that. Awesome grandma.
So do you have any favorite hobbies outside of football?
I don't know. No. I mean, no. I don't even know what I would do, honestly. A lot of my time is devoted to fantasy football, right? I tape, Jesus, I'm old. I record Dynasty Trades in 5, generally 3 nights a week. Then I have Dynasty Trades HQ one night, and then Fantasy Intervention one night. And then that's like 5 nights right there. And then if I can slip in a Manic and Chill, I'll slip in a Manic and Chill with Scott. And then I'm generally trying to write articles too, right? Because I'm writing for 2 different sites. One's redraft, one's dynasty. I don't know what I would do with my free time without fantasy football. I'm sure I'd do something. Watch TV. I'd watch TV. Yeah, I'd watch TV.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll get to that later. That's a little early for the high fives though. But I guess so. Podcasting, it's everything that you do. Apparently, or fantasy football is everything you do. So if you could interview anyone, and it could be a fantasy football context, but you can also go larger if you want with anyone. But if you could interview anyone, who would you like to interview?
Oh man, there's so many interesting people. Tom York from Radiohead. I'm a giant Radiohead fan, and I'd want to interview him just to talk to him and pick his brain about his lyrics because they seem so super specific yet so open to interpretation. And I just I think some of the wordplay in Radiohead songs is just the most ingenious things that have ever been written. So yeah, Tom York. Only problem with that is he got a lazy eye. And I've met multiple people with lazy eyes, and I try my best, but I end up focusing on it. And I'm like, I know they know I'm looking at their lazy eye, and I know that they know that I'm looking at their lazy eye, and it's uncomfortable. It's frankly uncomfortable, but I can't help it.
Well, here's what I think. Shouldn't she, like, by a sign of respect, shouldn't you look someone in the eye though? Shouldn't that not make you uncomfortable?
But the thing is,
or at least not worry about it, right? Like, I don't mind looking someone in the eye if they have a lazy eye because
I think you should look at both eyes. It's like a laser beam on the one eye. Like,
you always try to look between the nose on someone, right? Like,
yeah, and I can't. and I
Oh,
can't.
okay.
And I tell myself, I'm like, that, don't look at the lazy eye. Don't do it, dude. Don't do it. And then I'm like, oh, he has a lazy eye. All right, look at the lazy eye. And I'm like, no. So yeah, Tom York or Jesus. Jesus be cool to talk to. Yeah.
All right. There we go. I guess someone is saying that the Gerald Eubanks podcast are the best. Well, like, I mean, that's Jay from the 2 Point Conversion. So the other Monday night. So that's next Monday, by the way. If you want to also tune in for the 2 Point Conversion with Jay and Gladys, they do a fantastic job. But tonight is with Kyle and Shane.
Kyle and Shane. Yeah. So I think we're personally awesome. Thanks, Facebook user.
Thanks, Shane. So I guess, is there, well, and again, the thing with Facebook is we can't really see the names at all. That's part of Facebook privacy. So there's some things unknown, but maybe that's the case with this next question. Is there something that the fantasy football community doesn't know about you that you would like to reveal now?
That I'd like to reveal? No. I mean, here's the thing: the Dynasty community, Twitter, everyone knows everything about me already. I'm probably overly open, right? Like, I've battled depression openly on Twitter. Pretty much have live streamed me breaking down through a divorce, through my dad dying. I'm just open like that. There's not much people don't know about me. One thing people are always surprised about, though, is I'm Filipino. Because I don't know, they just don't realize that the last name is actually the capital of the Philippines. So that seems to be the one thing people don't know for some reason, and they're always shocked when I tell them.
Well, there you go. Now we know. Geography lesson too. Thank you. I actually did not know that Manila was
Southeast Asia islands.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. More geography bonus here. Learning from the smart people. But thank you, Shane. So what is? I guess that is maybe a revelation to some people. So what is one revelation that you have now that you wish you maybe would have gotten earlier?
Oh my goodness. One revelation. If you can absolutely at any point do something you love, or take a shot on doing something you love, do that. There's nothing worse than being, let's say, just you get to a certain age and realize, I should have taken a shot. I should have put more into it to make something happen. And I didn't, because either I was scared or I found excuses as to why I couldn't. We're all going to have excuses as to why we can't do something. But you really need to persevere through that and just give it a shot, because the worst that can happen is you're going to fail at it and you'll end up in the same exact spot that you were going to end up in anyway.
All right. So many great lessons here. Thank you. And I mean, I guess the fact that the fantasy community doesn't know, or there isn't much that the community doesn't know about you, is kind of to your first point you talked about earlier. The very first piece of advice you gave earlier was be yourself, be authentic. And it seems like with you, that also means being very open and just being the authentic Shane, which is, very loud and boisterous, but with so much to say. So we do want to listen.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone, and I can hear it and I can read it, and I used to edit. Thank God I don't edit anymore, because it's a horrible gig, except for the DLFA Dynasty 2022 draft guide. Edited that, so hit that up. I used to tell people, like, put some of yourself into an article, right? Like, it's kind of like music to me, like it's writing. Like, I enjoy, and I'll be honest with you, I enjoy writing more than I do writing about fantasy football. I just enjoy the writing. I like the wordplay. I like, you know what I mean? Things like that. When I can sneak wordplay in there, if I can sneak a word in there or a phrase in there, or if I can sneak a term in there and then add a cool link to it. Like, at one point I wrote an article about Superflex leagues, and I used what's the pact between Russia, the unspoken pact between Russia and America of mutual destruction. And I slipped that into an article. Like, just be yourself. Like, hopefully you're smart, but put some of yourself into it, because it's your content, it's yours. Like, that makes it unique. Like, we're not all going to be able to create a new metric, right? We're not all going to be able to be JJ Zacharyson and create a whole late round quarterback fad. We're not all going to be able to be, I'm trying to think of someone who created air yards. He never tweets anymore. That dude. But we're not every one of us is going to be able to just create this own metric. You know what I mean?
Hermsmeyer.
Josh, there you go. Josh
Yeah.
Hermsmeyer. There you go.
Sorry.
So just be yourself. I mean, pour yourself into it. Unless you're annoying, don't do that. If you're annoying, then just don't. But I don't know.
Uh-oh.
Put yourself in.
I'm in trouble. But yeah, I think, well, I guess for us, fantasy football is persistent, right? I'm sure if anyone hung out with us, they'd find us annoying constantly talking about fantasy football. And we've already slipped into some of the fantasy talk with the draft. Again, thanks, Jamie, for the comment and again, some draft advice. But now we're going to talk more about strategy and the one strategy of zero RB. What do you think about that strategy?
I hate paying up for running backs with an absolute passion. So I am all about that strategy in the startup draft. Because what I do is I keep looking at the running backs after like the top 4 or 5, and I'm like, I don't want to pay that for this guy. I'll just go get a wide receiver, and that'll just continue on until we get into the later rounds when I'm like, all right, I'll take shots on this guy. And then in my rookie drafts, except for this year, I'll go heavy at running back, and I'll trade for running backs too in season. Like if it looks like I have a legit shot at a title. And last year I did it. It didn't work out for me. I made a couple trades for Derrick Henry. I said, all right, I'm going to take the shot here. I'm going to try it. But in startup drafts, I'm all about zero RB. I want to accrue and acquire things that are going to assets that are going to increase. Running backs are literally like cars. As soon as you drive them off the lot, they're not as worth as much as you paid for them. Unless, you hit on I don't know, you get JT a couple years ago in a rookie draft, right? When we all faded him because of CEH for some reason, because we were silly. But most times you're not going to luck out like that. You're going to draft Rashad Penny in the first and then never be able to get to use him.
I will say credit to some people because I remember I still had JT ahead of CH even in rookie drafts. There's definitely a full press coverage article there that has proof of that. JT is the rookie 101 there. If anyone wants to go check out the receipts. But I remember being in drafts where I couldn't get JT because he would go off first. So it seemed like it wasn't as like everyone says N'Keal Harry, right? Like I don't remember very many rookie drafts I was in where N'Keal Harry was actually the 101. Maybe that's just because of the super flex bias. It was always Kyler Murray, but I definitely remember Jacobs and Montgomery, or at least in any draft I was in, Montgomery would definitely go ahead and N'Keal Harry. So maybe I'll also give the fantasy community a little credit, right? Like I know it wasn't every single draft where CH was the 101.
No, but
JT ahead of CH, but yeah, not as much as there should have been.
It was enough because if you remember, CEH was a first round startup pick. It was just bananas.
Yeah, that's true.
I bought into the hype. I'm not even going to lie, because if I didn't, I'd have a lot more JT on my rosters.
So I guess preferred league format. You're in Dynasty Trades HQ, Dynasty Trades in 5. So I'd imagine your format is Dynasty, but anything more specific than just straight up Dynasty?
Dynasty, Superflex. I don't really care about tight end premiums, to be honest with you. A little bit of PPC. I love tiered PPR scoring, where wide receivers get a little less than running backs, and then tight ends get it like a 1.75. But just for vanilla, plain Dynasty, Superflex, start 10. But yeah, I want PPC.
Yeah, point per carry.
Point per carry.
What's a good amount of point per carry, do you think?
I'm gonna say I like 0.15.
That's what I've seen a lot.
Yeah, it's not so egregious. I'm in leagues where there's like it's 0.25, and it's like, wow, it's a full point for every 4 carries. Like that's a lot.
Well, and I mean, I know Scott Connor, one of your co-hosts on a few of those shows, actually.
Yeah.
He commissions the league I'm in where it's 0.125, so not quite. So just a little bit less than what it seems like a conventional 0.15. A 15th of a point seems like that's kind of where I've seen a lot of point per carry. Dynasty Hot Sauce Pod, I assume it's Larry, is asking, you down with OPP? No, I'm not a member of the Ontario Provincial Police.
Yeah, you know me.
No. Oh, yeah. Does OPP mean anything else? Like, I know that's just a Ontario thing.
OPP, other people's property.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a song in the 90s. Larry's very old.
Will
Well, the
Heat
Heat
win
won
second
second half.
half? I'm not aware of the score.
I'm gonna go
They
with
are playing. Wait, they're playing your 76ers. I don't know if you're a 76ers basketball fan.
playing my 76ers without Joel Embiid because your horrible, terrible Toronto Raptors physically assaulted him.
After he physically assaulted some Toronto Raptors.
False.
Game
They
one.
broke his eye bone. It's a crime. Toronto should be banished from Canada, to be quite honest with you, for that crime. I personally wanted America to attack Canada and annex Toronto and just make it another state. But it's so cold up there. No one would live up there except for Minnesotan people, and they're basically Canadian anyway, so it makes sense. I'm gonna go with no. It's a pretty good chance that the Heat are probably gonna win the second half.
Richard, I'm also a Raptors fan. So anyway, congrats on the 76ers winning the series, by the way. Good job.
Well, no. I mean, but then you
well.
guys broke Joel's face. I mean, that's pretty tough. It's going to be literally impossible to beat the Heat without Joel Embiid on there. He's going to come back in like game 3. I don't even think he flew to Miami, but the Sixers will probably be down 0-2 at that point.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm not like the biggest basketball fan, but seems like the Bucks. I don't know. I find it hard to think the Bucks aren't just going to go back to the finals anyway. So might not have been their year, quote unquote, but who knows?
Sixers had a very good chance to at least come out of the East, even though James Harden is a what's the word I'm looking for? He's a
doesn't shoot well in the playoffs.
He's not what he used to be. He's not what he used to be.
he also well, he is, because he always used to not shoot well in the playoffs.
Yeah, but he's definitely not. He's not. Even old James Harden can do other things. You know what I mean? Like hit the step back threes once in a while. Like this dude is this is the washed version of him. I'm hoping to God the Sixers don't give him a max contract.
Okay, well, we'll find out the basketball. I don't think we talked too much basketball on press coverage before. So thanks everyone.
Well, you know, when I was thinking about being on the show tonight, and I'm happy someone brought up the Sixers, because I did want to rip you a little bit for being a Toronto fan and rooting for such a physically abusive, horrible team that plays so dirty.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I guess they're the Philadelphia Flyers of today's NBA.
I mean, look, the Flyers haven't been the Broad Street Bullies in 50 years.
Yeah, actually, you're right. It basically has been 50 years.
Yeah.
What, I think 70. Yeah. 75 was the last cup.
Yeah, they haven't won a Stanley Cup in going on 50 years, but they've been to 6 Stanley Cups since then and have gotten their doors blown off most of the time. Good times.
Anyway, yeah, so we'll keep moving on in terms of your favorites and the actual good times. So I guess you talked about like the point per carry being a scoring setting you'd kind of want in any league. I know my answer is always no trade vetoes, but I'm assuming that's everyone's answer, is like the absence of that. You see his face immediately. So
that's just offensive. If I'm in a league that plays with trade vetoes, I'm leaving the league. Like as soon as I figure that out, I'm like, oh, okay, you guys are a bunch of little kids. I'm out. Bye.
Okay, so I think we've covered that well. So Shane, who are your all-time quarterback 1, RB 1, wide receiver 1, and tight end 1 for fantasy?
All time?
Yeah.
Man, I hate being Jerry Rice is the wide receiver 1. Just the years he put up were just absolutely ridiculous. Like Cooper Kupp finally put up numbers to match him last year, but Jerry Rice did that for like a decade. You remember when we got all hot and bothered because AB put up a bunch of yards for 4 years, 5 years? Like Jerry Rice did that for like most of my life. McNabb, definitely not McNabb. QB1, man, just because I was always an upside guy. And I know he's not the best quarterback fantasy of all time, but Michael Vick, man, the rushing ability and that cannon of an arm. Like there was just weeks where you were like, you didn't think you had a shot. And then he jumped on Monday night and ran for an 80-yard touchdown and then threw for a 90-yard touchdown. And you're like, dude, I just beat you. Like I beat you bad because we might have had long distance scoring in those leagues, but whatever. Don't have that in most leagues anymore. Tight end 1. Gotta go with Gronk, right? It can't be anyone but Gronk.
Could argue Kelsey, but yeah.
Yeah, if he can do it for another 4 years, No, I mean, he's done it for a long time, but Gronk was just, dude, Gronk was just next level. You know what I mean? And then running back, I'm going with Ladainian Tomlinson. That dude was a cheat code for a short period. There was a couple years there where Priest Holmes was an absolute. He was just smashing fools. But long term, it was Ladainian who did that, and also did it over a longer stretch.
So I love this comment about Michael Vick running all over the Vikings, especially as a Packers fan. Love to hear the Vikings not doing well. And I got to say, for Larry Monkey to say cool mascot when he's got a fire-breathing monkey as his mascot, that means something. So
What are the Jets? Are they a jet? Is that their mascot?
yeah.
Woody the Jet? Is that what it is?
Fireman Ed. Dude, okay, so I guess Larry agrees with your Priest Hall or Priest
Holmes.
Jeez, rookie fever. I can't. I'm trying to say Brees Hall is Priest Holmes apparently.
Yeah, no. It was. It wasn't a long stretch. It was like 2 or 3 years, but he just put up like ridiculous numbers and out of nowhere too, right? Like if I remember correctly, I don't remember correctly, but I think he was I want to say he was a Raven. That's probably wrong. Now I gotta look him up because it's gonna make me mad if I don't. But
you are correct. He was a Raven from '97 until 2000, and then a Chief for the rest of his career.
And then he went to the Chiefs, and he had like these couple just monstrous years, and it was incredible, and came out of nowhere. And he's still the guy I think of like anytime a running back rips off like 3 games. I'm like, well, maybe he could be the next Priest Holmes. Instead, he ends up being the next. Remember Buck. Another Raven, Buck Anderson. Is that what his name was? Doesn't matter. Don't remember him.
That's a forgotten fantasy player for Jeff's Armchair Show on Wednesdays, which everyone should check out every week on the Going for Two Live Network, by the way. I'm looking at Priest Holmes' career numbers. Yeah, those 3 seasons between 2001 2003. He had 2,000 scrimmage yards each of the 3 seasons. He had at least 60 catches each of those 3 years. And 2001, he only had 10 touchdowns, but 24 touchdowns and 27 the following season.
Yeah, he was an absolute monster, and it came out of the blue, like literally like lightning out of the sky.
So Larry predicts the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl because of, I guess, Garrett Wilson now, Elijah Moore, and all those pieces they added. I mean, to be fair, they did just add 4 top 40 picks. I'm not sure any team's ever done that before. I know that I looked up Packers history. That never happened. So,
dude, I love what the Jets did, man. Absolutely love it. That offense, as long as Zach Wilson isn't an absolute ass cheek, should be just so good. I mean, with Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis is your wide receiver 3, and then Brees Hall. And the the tight ends aren't bad either with CJ Uzomah. He's a nice threat to break one off at any moment.
Here's one I have, because I think I was kind of updating my dynasty rankings after the draft, and I was kind of stuck on I think I've got like Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, and Davis Mills, all 3 back-to-back in my rankings. And I don't know. I think I still have Jones ahead of Wilson, but I did consider all these upgrades, and moves that the Jets have made to maybe push Wilson ahead of Jones. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'll take Wilson over Jones, mostly because of the upside that's there, right? I think we all know that the downside for Wilson is that he's going to be out of the league in 2 years, or at least a backup, whereas Mac Jones will probably be the steady starter in the league for the next 15 years. But the best season he'll ever give me is QB 15. So I'll bet on Wilson right now. It's just because with that cast, man, if he just plays to what his potential is, it's really going to be sickening. Like he should be a QB1.
And it's funny. Someone just like maybe an hour before the show came on asked me about a trade. I've got Zach Wilson in a couple leagues. In one of those leagues, that particular manager needs some quarterback help. I think a victim of Ben Roethlisberger retiring and kind of stuck without a QB2. So is Zach Wilson worth a 23 first?
Oh, no. No, I'm not betting that hard on him.
Okay, which is what my thinking too, asking what my price would be. And I was, do I say 23 first, or is that unreasonable? But my thought is, I know that they want Brandon Ayuk as well. So maybe packaging both and getting a first out of it is maybe how I'm going to try and approach that.
Well, you should be asking for more than a first. If you're giving them Wilson and Ayuk, ask for more than a first.
Yeah, I figured a first, and then I'll get like a throw in somewhere, whether it's another wide receiver, just a. I'm loving it. A few leagues I've done actually the trades in 5 league. I did this twice. Just okay. Can you just throw a random 23 third in? Just throw a random 23 third. I'll do this, but give me a 23 third, and I'm just trying to accumulate that to mostly using the season, not even to push for to trade for bodies or consolidate and move up, not necessarily to make those picks, but
Yeah, exactly. And look, that's what we preach in every trade, right? Like these trades aren't getting a third isn't about the pick. You don't want to ever have to make that pick. It's crypto coin. Like you just want to flip it for something else. Like you're just using that to grease the wheels of some other trade. Or like you said, in season, when you're trying to get a running back for a spot start or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this year the 23 picks are already more expensive, but I think it's going to be great to do this next year, trying to buy those 24 picks early. They're going to be so cheap. You're just going to be able to accumulate them a ton before the 2023 season. And then during that 2023 season, if you've had rookie picks and they're kind of hitting now, or you're going for it in 2023, those 24 picks will be most useful just buying players down the stretch, knowing exactly who's not done for the season at this point and who's still going, whose teams are producing, which offensive lines are doing well, like you're saying, for buying running backs, especially because the O-line is important. As Larry Monkey provided earlier, talk about the Priest Holmes seasons, I believe, how that O-line was sick in Kansas City. And then he mentions Jamal Charles, the pass catcher as well, and great Chiefs runner and good O-line.
The reason is Priest Holmes just represented this whole like out of the blue nowhere. Like this guy went from basically, I think he was a backup in Baltimore to one of the best running backs in the league over a 3-year stretch and put up some of the best seasons ever in fantasy football. Like it was just amazing.
All right, so now we're going to get to the high fives. This portion of the show, we're going to talk about, thanks. I usually do that awkwardly, and the guest just kind of stares like, "Oh god, this guy's weird," but you did it too. So this is the best. Thank you, Shane. You're definitely not the worst. I love the irony in your Twitter handle. I always do. But yeah, so we're gonna get to top 5 categories. So we're gonna start with top 5 artists or bands. I kind of think we already know number 1, but let's go through it anyway.
Yeah, so it's gonna be Radiohead, Pink Floyd, City and Color, Iron and Wine. I don't know. It's going to have to rotate. I can't give you a 5th because I want to keep hitting this. I got to change there. I got to change.
Well, okay. So City and Color. So Dallas Green, even though his name is Dallas, he's actually Canadian.
Right. Yes. And he was named after the Philadelphia Phillies Dallas Green.
Oh, okay.
Did you know that? Yeah. Yeah.
No,
because
that's baseball, right? Phillies?
Yeah.
Dallas that's probably why I don't know who Dallas Green is.
Yeah, he was a GM for the Phillies for not that long ago. Well, he's dead now. But he also managed them to their first World Series championship. And you know how he got the name, why he chose City and Color, right?
Well, because Dallas Green is a city and it's a
right,
color.
And he didn't just want to go by his name. So he said, all right, let me do City and Color. And that's how I was like, oh, that's clever, dude. I like you. And I
still my name.
I love City and Color because it was an offshoot of another band that he had. Like this was the band that was like, whatever. This is just me screwing around. Meanwhile, I couldn't tell you the name of the other band.
Well, I was about to tell you because I don't know if you've heard of them. You might like them because I know you kind of like. As much as there weren't any metal bands mentioned, I know you kind of you dig the heavier stuff. Alexis on Fire, which is basically Alex is on fire, but said really quickly.
So he kind of did the same thing like Slipknot did, except Slipknot had what was their emo band? Damn it, I can't remember now.
Stone Sour.
Stone Sour. There you go. Yeah.
That's so basically what it turned into. Yeah.
Right. Except that this is very emo. Like this is beyond City and Colors, beyond like Stone Sour.
Yeah, I don't think Stone Sour was that much of a departure from Slipknot. Not to the extent of City and Colors, a massive departure from Alexis on Fire. But yeah. You might. I'd say check out Alexis on Fire. You might like them.
All right, I'll check them out, sir.
And another band I want to recommend to you because I know you like writing so much. And I know for myself when I'm writing, I find I don't really like listening to a lot of music with words in it when I'm trying to write because it mixes up the signal. It gets me confused. So I listen to a lot of instrumental music. I love listening to like classical guitar, symphonies or jazz stuff, but I know not everyone does. There's a band called Animals as Leaders. And they're a metal band. And it's instrumental. It's two electric guitarists who usually play like 8-string guitars, so they can both play bass lines as well, and a drummer. It's just a 3-piece, and it's super heavy, super awesome, really dynamic as well. So definitely anyone who likes instrumental music or wants to kind of have something to write with but gets distracted with other words, that I think Animals as Leaders be a good place to look.
Yeah, you know what? Opposite end of that spectrum, but also there's a bunch of songs with not a lot of lyrics to it. Is "Sleeping at Last." They have some really cool songs. Yeah, I tend to. It's funny because I do listen to everything, but I tend to listen to more like just laid back, chill music, trying to counteract my natural aggression. Um, but I do love Deftones. There's Metallica songs I obviously love. System of a Down, although it broke my heart a little bit when I saw that System of a Down, they were using one of their songs in one of the cartoons that just came out. There's the one with the singing animals, and they had a System of a Down song on it, and it made me very sad.
Oh, I'm not sure what you're talking about with the singing animals, but it's not Animals as Leaders because they don't have singers.
Okay.
Sorry that I broke your heart. It broke down your heart, the system, that is. But we'll talk about your top 5 favorite books.
Books. I haven't read books in forever, man. Dirty Wars, which was a book about basically the American drone strikes in all over the Middle East, a little bit in Africa. It's an interesting read. Might help you understand why a lot of the Middle Eastern nations hate us. Because basically we've had nonstop war on these countries like Yemen and all these other Equator and countries like that, where we've just been drone strikes, not Iran, but Iraq and a bunch of other countries. Obviously Afghanistan, where we were just hitting them with drone strikes for just decades, literally decades. So it's an interesting read. It's not to excuse some of their feelings towards us, but you understand why some of the rest of the world might not be the biggest fans of us. Then literally just every Anne Rice, the vampire series, Interview with a Vampire, Lestat the Vampire, Queen of the Damned. Then each of the other ones that had their own. Louis had his own book. Yeah, all the Anne Rice books. I haven't read books in so long. I'm kind of embarrassed.
Okay, well, that's all right. We'll go to top 5 TV shows.
The Wire, without a doubt, right? I don't even think that's in question. This is where it gets, man, I got so many shows that I really loved. And it was only one season, but I loved it because it made me think like no other shows ever made me use my brain and think outside. Devs from it was on FX last year. Just mind bending, like just the concepts. You know what I mean? Like it was one of those shows where like after you were done watching it, you would think about it and think about the ramifications of what you just watched. And then because you should have some fun in your life, American Horror Story. Just an awful show. The acting's terrible. The writing is just brutal. Everything about it is just, the plots are just wonky, but it's just so over the top, like just trash that you're like, yeah, I love this.
You say don't oversell this. I think you
But
might
it's
overhype it
so
here.
good. It's so kitsch. It's so, you know what I mean? Like it's Rocky Horror Picture Show all the time. Forensic Files. Love Forensic Files. I don't know who does it. That dude's got the greatest voice in the history of life. He's dead now because he'd be like 150. But I literally go to sleep every night listening to Forensic Files. Just that dude's voice talking about murder just calms me. Like just something about his voice. The Americans is up there. The Americans was so good. What's yours? Give me a couple of yours.
Well, so I have a Canadian show called 19-2, but there's also an English version called 19-2. They made
99 Luftballons.
I mean, if they're blue balloons, sure, because it's a cop show. It's
Okay.
two partners riding in the 19th precinct, second car together in Montreal. So they Radio Canada did one, CBC produced the other. Essentially the same storyline of the same characters. It's with some divergences. So there is an English version for everyone who maybe a bit more accessible to most audiences. But I love that French version. They're both fantastic, spectacular. And then the other one I'd always point to is Breaking Bad.
Yeah, Breaking Bad's definitely. Yeah, if I had if I was going for like good television shows, I'd probably go Breaking Bad over American Horror Story and Forensic Files. There's a couple of them on the spot. Like West Wing. I loved West Wing. West Wing because it was just so. It was also the plots were just ridiculous, but there was that like it had this sense of optimism to the show that like politics could actually matter and politicians could actually care about you. As I gotten older, I've realized that's just bullshit, but it was nice to at least believe that for a little bit.
It's funny how you say like the plots were outrageous then for political content, and then flashback like 15 years later. Oh, it's now we've seen it all in real life, so it's not so outrageous anymore. It seems pretty tame.
There was some I loved Man in the High Castle again because of the concept more than the actual show itself. Game of Thrones. I want to put Game of Thrones in there, but the last season was so bad that I can't. It ruins it for me. I don't know if you're like me, but I like to go back and watch shows again. But if I know that the ending is awful, I know the ending is awful. It doesn't matter how good the lead up is. It's like at the end of this, I'm still getting kicked in the balls. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm not gonna put myself through it again.
No, fair enough. Like, yeah, that makes sense. And I think, well, I don't always say anything that's worth watching is worth watching twice, because the second time over, because you know how it ends, you can also see what they've done up to the point that kind of leads that hints that you would not have realized the first time you watch it. So if it's a good show, you should watch it at least twice, I'd say. But that's just me.
I've watched Game of Thrones, like I've watched up until like the last couple seasons multiple times. I've watched Sopranos repeatedly. Breaking Bad, I've watched at least every time it's on AMC. I'm just like, yep, guess I'm sitting in and watching this. The Americans was another show. I loved Snowfall until this year when it just completely went bonkers. Probably should end it last year.
Turned into a blizzard.
Yeah.
So then we'll keep going with the high fives. Top 5 game day foods.
Nachos, always nachos, right? And then you got to have like bean dip. My best friend, his wife makes bean dip. And I love it. Like that's like the whole, like that's my whole, like what I look forward to on Sundays. I'm like, I'm just going to get there. I'm going to get the bean dip. I'm going to go like house a bunch of this. Wings, right? Got to have crispy hot wings. I don't like those, what's the word I'm looking for? Soggy and just weak ones. Got to be hard, crispy wings. Pizza, because pizza's always good. Ice cream, because I'm going to have ice cream at the end of it. Yeah. I'm going to have some chocolate ice cream. It's only like 4 things. And then does beer count as food?
If you drink enough of it, I suppose it is, but maybe you shouldn't encourage that.
There are a lot.
But go with it. It's your top 5. So if you want to put beer, go ahead.
Pretzels, because I'm from Philly, so it's got to be pretzels, right?
Fair enough. We'll end with, again, Dynasty Trades HQ co-host. What are your top 5 Dynasty trades?
See, I don't remember these. You know this. I do a whole show on trades, but I trade so much, I don't remember them.
Top 5 trades of this year? Can you name 5 trades you've done from this year? I don't know.
Okay, hold on. I could give you some trades I made this year. Let me go, because this is what I tell Mike and Jeremy all the time. They're like, "Oh, I don't know how you remember trades," and I'm like, "I don't, bro. Like, I literally never remember trades. I just send them to." Oh, wait, here was a fun one. Oh, I just made this. This feels good now. I gave up Antonio Gibson in a 2024 second for 213 and a 2023 first a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Oh, here's a trade that didn't work out so well. I gave up, and this was before the draft, I gave up Trevor Lawrence for the 101, who I was going to take Malik Willis with.
Oh, right. In the trade, the DTHQ DNC League.
Yeah, that didn't work out. Well, here's a fun one that I made. Oh, no, there's more. I gotta find. There's a post-apocalypse.
Didn't you? I thought you got something else on top of the 101. Maybe it wasn't much.
301. Okay. Not enough to make up for the fact that
you might get Malik Willis there.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm getting Malik Willis no matter what. Awesome. Let's see. I made a trade yesterday. I gave up the 114 and a round 2 for the 110. I don't remember trades. Like, I got to be honest with you. Like, half the trades, I make them and then I move on. And it's probably best that way, because the ones that don't hit, I don't want to look back at. But there are certain trades that I'll never forget. Like I traded the 101 one year, which was the Ezekiel Elliott year, because I wanted depth at wide receiver. So I got like the 1-5, 1-6. I might even gotten the 112 too. And I drafted Corey Coleman and like Will Fuller and like Laquan Treadwell. And it was
Everyone
maybe
but
not
Michael
Laquan
Thomas.
Treadwell.
Because all it takes is one Michael Thomas pick there, and it makes it worth it, right? So
yeah. Unfortunately, I drafted a bunch of Mike Thomases.
Yeah. I was in on Devontae Booker that year, so
it was that class was definitely Zeke and no one else.
Jordan Howard was the RB2 from that class. To be honest, no one knew it at the time.
What a terrible class.
Sorry. So I guess we'll dwell on it no more, and we'll get out of here. Sorry to end on such a sour note, but this was such an awesome, amazing time. Shane, thank you so much. Is there? I know we've talked about your shows throughout, but is there anything else you want to plug or share with the viewers?
I don't know. Find me on Twitter if you like me. Go follow some of my shows. I do shows with other people, and they're all really smart people, so follow them.
All right. And thank you so much for everyone listening. You can follow me on Twitter at Senra Says. Also follow the Going for Two Live network at Going for Two Live. Again, we're on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. So please, what are we looking for? Like, subscribe, comment. I got to get using better at plugging. I'll be more used to it. I guess the end of the episode a little weak. Yeah, so we appreciate all that support that you continuously give us. Again, check out goingfor2.com for all your sports betting DFS needs. We've redraft tons of Dynasty content right now. The redraft stuff will start pouring in now that the NFL draft is done. But of course, there's all sorts of DFS stuff, whether it's, I guess right now it's basketball playoffs and hockey playoffs, and I guess baseball regular season. I forgot about baseball for some reason, but yeah, all that content available on goingfor2.com. So Shane, any parting words of wisdom?
Don't drink and drive. Never let children smoke cigarettes, because I need cigarettes, and I get mad when the kids are smoking them, and the store runs out of them, and they're like, "Oh, I just sold that last pack to that 15-year-old." And you're like, "You son of a bitch! That's illegal for one, and now I got to go beat a 15-year-old up. So how does that make me look?"
I don't know how else to end, but thank you for that so much, Shane. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me
how
on.
you make me feel when you talk. This was Press Coverage. Bye for now.